Welcome back to the Joyful Optimist. This is your Sunday sanctuary, a space to slow down, reflect, and reconnect with what really matters. I'm Sandy Kusano. Before we begin, I want to name where I am right now, the location, because it feels important. I'm recording this episode in my home in Pennsylvania, a home I bought almost 20 years ago with my mom. A big, beautiful, slightly colossus of a house that we ran as a bed and breakfast. And it became a part of our shared story. It's also a home that's now for sale. So if you hear a little echo or a different kind of quiet, that's why. Before we go any further, just take one breath with me. Nothing to fix, nothing to figure out. Just be present. As I've moved through different seasons of my life, as I've gotten older, pivoted, taken risks, rebuilt, and let things fall apart and come back together, one truth has kept resurfacing. With every challenge I overcame, every milestone I achieved, every version of success I thought I wanted, I cared less about achievement and more about experience. Less about how life looked like, more about how it felt. At the time, I didn't have words for this. I just knew. I just knew intuitively that the way I wanted to live had to change. When my mom passed away, now 3 years ago, I had a surprisingly hard time letting go of this house. Not for the sentimental reasons people often assume. I didn't grow up in this house, but rather it was about value, scarcity, a quiet story running underneath. What if I never can afford something like this again? What if this was my inheritance, my security, my proof? I was attached to the idea that this house meant safety, that it represented legacy. And yet, I was living inside something that no longer fit the life I wanted. It took time and honestly, distance to see that. So, back in 2019, one of the moments that clarified everything came when my life looked the least certain. I had left my corporate career of over 2 decades, and I didn't know what was next. There was no 5-year plan. But rather than forcing answers, I made one decision. I'm going to go traveling. What was supposed to be 6 months turned into 8. I traveled through Asia with 2 simple promises to myself. I would not demand clarity on what was to come, and I would not ruminate on the past. My only job was to live each day, moment to moment, through experience, connection, and presence. Some days were full, some days were quiet, but every day was practice. That journey also reconnected me to parts of myself I didn't realize I'd been carrying quietly. I immigrated to the US when I was 4. And like many immigrants, I spent much of my life trying to assimilate, to succeed, to fit, to perform belonging. So traveling through Asia, South Korea, Mongolia, Nepal, Bhutan, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore. It did something unexpected. There was a familiarity and ease. People just assumed I was from there, that I was local, something I had never experienced, that my face looked so familiar, so normal, so much that it belonged. And something in me relaxed. It wasn't about genetics or labels. It was about feeling at home in my own skin. When I returned to the US and began rebuilding my life, one thing was clear. Life could not just be about money or titles or working endlessly and postponing joy. I wanted a life centered on experience, freedom, alignment. And I landed with coaching. And over the years, even my own coaching has evolved alongside that knowing. When I first began, I began coaching executives, an executive coach. But now this evolution, it's gone from, it's not the title, the person, not the performance, the transformation. And not what do you do, but how do you want to live? For a long time, I lived this philosophy without a name. And then I came across 2 words: true wealth. So this is often attributed to a philosopher named Alan Watts. And he spoke about how money is not the substance of life. It's a symbol, an accounting tool. And I've always believed that. I've always had this innate belief that money was energy, a resource, something that needed to flow. And he would say that the real wealth of life is connect, experience, nature, presence, and our capacity for joy. And boy, when I read that, I felt something click. In fact, my coaching practice, my business has always been called Joyful Optimist. And here I was not focusing on the thing that I knew needed to be focused on. And so I shifted, and this is what I understood I've been living toward, and I really started to align how I show up for others in that way. And this lineage of thinking and belief systems influenced by Vedanta, Buddhism, Taoism, it has been a part of me and has shaped me for all my life. So seeing this out in the world wasn't just validation, it was relief. And here's the thing I realized. And I realized it most as I sit in this house. My first and truest teacher of true wealth is my mom. And she didn't have the words either. And like any good Asian mom, she valued education and stability. But, never did she have that get in the way of discouraging my curiosity, my movement, my desire to be in the world. She encouraged me to listen to my intuition, live fully, to just go. And she passed away in this house, and I will always be grateful that I was with her and could hold her hand and express my gratitude for the life that she helped design for me. And what I realized is that it's the experiences, the shared travel that we did together, the laughter that we had. And so grateful for the freedom she gave me to become myself. See, that is legacy. So it's time for us to pause together. And if you want, this is a good time to grab a journal or just simply reflect with me. The question for us today is, when you imagine a truly wealthy life, what does it look like? What does it feel? It's not about what it proves, but rather how it feels in your body. What do your days look like? What are the relationships? How do they support you? And as a follow-up question, you can ask yourself, what are you holding on to that might be ready to be released? If this episode stirred something for you, I'd really love to know how you're doing. You can leave a comment or send me a note at joyfuloptimist.com. And if someone in your life is questioning the life they've been told to want, please share this episode with them. And I'll leave you with a mantra that I've been holding close to me lately. Don't wait for the magic. Be the magic. Until next Sunday, I'm Sandy, your true wealth coach.